There's a concept in communication which talks about controlling the narrative. Well, today we're going to talk about controlling the narrative, something which I learned at a very young age. Maybe that impacted what I do in life, but I used to enjoy chocolate chips, and my mother used to hide them in various places so she would have them when she got around to baking. But I would find them, and obviously I thought I was pretty smart until she went to look for them and there were a lot less chocolate chips. So she would ask a question and I was really good at coming up with a story. However, it seemed that her facts and the data overweighed my narrative. However, if you say it long enough, maybe at least I believed it. But anyway, we're going to talk about that today in a variety of contexts. So continue on with me. Growing up in the late 50s, early 60s, the stories or narratives that I enjoyed were like the Mother Goose nursery rhymes, and there were fables, and there were fairy tales, and there was the story of the three pigs, and what was it, Billy Goat's Gruff, and stories that had, if you want to say, were kind of simple and had meaning and told a story and made a point and did that in a way that kind of made you feel good, made you understand parts of life or some of the consequences of the decisions that you would make. Well, then later on, I went to another place and there was another book that I was introduced to. And however, this book, there in many ways was no fun in it. It was meant to be taken absolutely, positively, seriously, and if not, there would be significant consequences because it was the book of God. The same boy who heard these stories was the same boy who made up stories about chocolate chips, and not just chocolate chips, but I made up stories about other things, trying to control the narrative. But listening to the Sunday school teacher and all of those stories, which only had one point, that if you weren't honest and trustworthy, God was never going to like you. So the narrative, controlled in many ways, if you wish to say, by the Sunday school teacher, was one of strictness, of discipline, of following life in the straight and narrow, or else. So later on in life, you see, you hear different stories, you look at different novels that you may read or short stories, and they try to broaden life's perspectives to make you say that there isn't just one easy answer. So that's kind of in contrast to the book of God, at least as I was taught. So anyway, I grow up and I go to seminary, and all of a sudden I find out that this book of God, and it wasn't the first revelation, okay, that this book of God is a series of stories. It's not a history book. It's not a science book. It's not rules and regulations. It's stories. It's literature. It's meant to interpret, not by itself, but to help the reader interpret what's going on around them. Why are there two creation stories? How come in some of the writing David is flawless, and in other parts of it he's very human as an adulterer and a murderer? And how does this God, who I learned was going to punish you, how does that all fit? The narrative. Good narrative does not tell you what to do. Good narrative broadens builds, creates, helps us think and ponder and discover and feel free to maybe in many ways go to the edge and yet know that you're not going to fall off into the great abyss of damnation. But now, in our current setting, there seems to be a lack of need to explore and think and challenge and ponder. We're being told what to believe. Somebody, if they can control the narrative, they can control us. If they can control what we think and see, they control us. And maybe part of that is because we are a very visual world anymore. We don't spend time reading. We're in front of screens like you are right now, watching things. And somebody else is interpreting what's being said. And that even takes place, so to speak, in Scripture. For me, Scripture is meant to be discussed. There isn't one right answer or one wrong answer or even one answer. It's a multitude of things that actually change over the course of life. But in this whole kind of context now of somebody trying to tell us what to believe, and for the most part, there's only two sides. Yeah, there's more, but come on. We're divided. And if you're divided, we're not divided into 3, 4, 5, or 6 parts. We're not a pie anymore. It kind of seems there's 2 parts. But I want to quote back to the Scripture, a writer, a podcaster, a person by the name of Allie Beth Stuckey. And she wrote a book and talked about toxic empathy. So all of a sudden, being empathetic, which is part of what I think Scripture tells us about, toxic empathy, how progressives exploit Christian compassion. And here's a quote from her. They, meaning the progressives, use toxic empathy by employing our language, our Bible verses, our concepts, and then pervert them to morally extort us into adapting their position. Wow! All of a sudden, Scripture is us and them too? Come on. Our verses, our language, our concepts. Who has some sort of monopoly on this? But listen to the language. And I'm just not saying this is from one perspective. It's from all perspectives. That instead of building up, instead of helping people think anymore, they put stuff in front of us. We're watching it like you're watching this now, and we use language that exploits, language that causes fear, kind of like the Sunday school teacher I was talking about, that you better do it right or else. Instead of realizing the narrative is not one or the other, the narrative is about helping us live together and think together and dialogue together as diverse people. So as we wrap this up, maybe instead of trying to control the narrative, we should expand the narrative. And how do you do that? Well, by stepping out of screens, by expanding outlook, by looking at other sources, reading, listening to diverse voices, because control is an illusion. And yet we think we're so busy, or we're told we're so busy, that we just grab little sound bites. And so as we're on screens all the time, visually stimulated, we're looking at things with somebody else's interpretation. And then we get caught into small vocabulary like weaponized. You ever wondered? Boy, that is one word that gets used for everything. We're going to, they're weaponizing the judicial system. They're weaponizing vaccinations. it's words of fear, it's words of conflict, it's not words that bring us together. And yet, you know, the old adage, follow the money. Who's profiting from putting us into categories? Who's profiting by controlling the narrative? Expand the narrative. Take a look at life and don't settle for easy answers, because at least in my estimation, there are no easy answers. If you notice something over the course of these last minutes, when I started this video, there were leaves on the trees and kind of sunshine. Then I went into a area where there were no leaves on the trees and it was kind of gray, and I wrapped this up with snow on the ground and all kinds of messy weather out here. Life's a lot like that. You don't control the weather, you don't control situations. Over the past month, a lot of things have gone on that I can't control, and so you go through them. I don't need to judge them, I don't need to come to conclusions about them. I just need to look at them and see what is being offered up. What can I learn? What can it tell me, not only about life, but about community, about other people, about connections? So anyway, the narrative, explore it, wonder about it. Don't settle for lies and preconceived ideas. Expand your vocabulary, expand your reading, expand getting out, and instead of staying away from strangers or those whom you think you may not agree with, get close to them, because you may find out there's a lot more humanity in us than we're led to believe. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thanks for responding. We'll see you again.